Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I am very happy to talk to you about 3 easy steps to recruit your own unofficial board of mentors, a slightly clickbaity title, and make sure to stick to the end to learn about these 3 easy steps. I'm Dr. Anna Henschel. You can find me on Twitter at Anna Henschel, and the pronouns that I use are she, her. Yeah, as I said, I'm very delighted and honored to be here to talk with you about my own experience with mentoring, both as a mentee and also as a mentor. I'm coming to you from the past. I very much hope you enjoy this talk and get something out of it to improve your own mentorship experiences and make your own experiences and learn your own lessons with it. Don't worry about making notes or anything like that. I will share the slides with you, probably with an OSF link. And the Creative Commons license that I use is the generic CC BY license. So that means you can share the slides. However, you must credit the author, and you have to refer to the original license. Okay, so let's get into it. First of all, hello again. I'm Dr. Anna Henschel. I'm working as a science communicator at Wissenschaft im Dialog, which is an institute for science communication by the German scientific community. I'm working as part of a team that is organizing the Science Year 2020, which is happening under the motto Participate. So it's all about engaging everyone and anyone with the process of science. I obtained my PhD from the University of Glasgow, and because it's quite essential to the content of my talk, I will take you a little bit through my journey, my professional career path. So here you see a very professional self-portrait of myself, kind of at the beginning of my journey when I started my bachelor's of psychology at the University of Constance. This was back in 2011, a while ago now. And there at the University of Constance, I participated in a wonderful mentorship program. So this was towards the end of my bachelor's degree, and it was specifically designed to support bachelor and I think back then also master students with making transitions. So going either towards a master's degree or a PhD. And this mentorship program was really wonderful. I applied for it. There was a little bit of a process there to get into it. And then I was matched up with a mentor who was, in fact, back then, a woman working as a psychologist, which didn't end up to be the career path that I chose. However, it was an incredibly valuable experience talking with her and planning my next steps. We also had this great, we were able to take advantage of this great part of the program, which was a peer group of other mentees. So similarly aged bachelor students, and we would meet in little groups and give each other feedback with applications and help each other out in all sorts of ways. There were also lots of workshops organized by the program and networking events. And I've pasted a picture from one of these kinds of events. This is actually not my cohort because I think it was a little bit too long ago now, so there's no more pictures on the website. But you could also have a look at the website if you're German speaking to find out how that program in particular is structured. Then I moved on for a master's in cognitive neuropsychology at the Freie Universität Amsterdam. And I was also lucky to do an internship during my master's program that was very formative. And mentorship in that kind of station of my life touched my life in a way where I was able to join the master's program through a fellowship offered by the Freie Universität Amsterdam, the so-called Freie Universität Amsterdam Fellowship Program. And the program coordinators also organized lots of networking events for the other fellows, and this was also an incredibly valuable experience, meeting lots of people who were studying something wildly different than myself. And yeah, we had these networking meetings and also again workshops and input talks. And through this kind of experience, I was very happy to benefit from the wisdom and the knowledge of my of another fellow, Laila, who's here in the picture, who actually nudged me a little bit to engage with social media and gave me some really great advice and mentorship when it came to how to start on social media and all the benefits it can bring as an early scientist. So what happened next? I moved on to the PhD in psychology, first in Wales and then moved to Glasgow. And here you can see already a lot of the people who supported me there and who were really crucial and took on various sorts of mentorship roles while I was there. And beyond that, to be honest. So another great thing that the University of Glasgow offered, specifically the psychology department, was a buddy program. So a more experienced PhD student who I would meet up with regularly and who helped me in the beginning. I then also took part in the buddy program as a mentor, because I think it's just such a great innovation to have older or slightly further along PhD students help the younger cohort that is just starting. I also got a lot of mentorship from postdoc in our lab, actually Professor Dr. Ruud Hortensius now. And as you can see from the many pictures, I got a lot of mentorship from the community in all sorts of formal or even more informal ways. Another great thing that kind of was kickstarted through this fateful fellowship program impetus was that I joined Twitter and also started to engage with it a little bit, and thus could reap the benefits of the Twitter community. And here you just see a picture from one of our lab hikes, which is from the very start of my PhD. Nowadays, I work as a project manager, as I already said, at Wissenschaft im Dialog. And as part of me being a project manager there, I am also able to benefit from a buddy program, which has been absolutely wonderful. I think this is just such a great system put in place to support new members of the team. And I was also happy to take on a mentorship role as part of a mentoring program from a different university, the University of Osnabrück, where I'm mentoring a master's student in cognitive psychology. You see her in this picture, Friederike, where she actually came to visit me at work and to get a better idea of what a project manager does on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So this is a little bit of an overview of my experience with mentorship. And now I kind of want to take a step back and ask you the question of, what does a mentor look like to you? So if you're thinking about it for a little moment and conjure up an image in your head, I will give you a little bit of time to do that. Perhaps you even already think of a person, or perhaps a group, or maybe even a fictional image. What sort of mentor comes to mind? And to be honest, when I first started thinking about it and reflecting on the topic and reflecting on how much mentors had helped me with my professional development and development of skills and all sorts of other things, then I had this kind of more restricted image of this kind of elderly, wise figure that is kind of much my senior, and this was kind of a little bit of a stereotype that I had even after my early experience with peer mentoring as part of the mentoring program at my during my bachelor's degree. So I guess with this talk, I want to challenge this image a little bit, and I also want to hopefully remove a little bit of this elitist idea that a mentor or mentorship is something that is only available to a select few. I think you're probably already, and hopefully this will also come to you within the next 10 minutes or so, you're already benefiting from advice of your peers, of senior scientists perhaps, and hopefully this talk will also move you to take even more advantage of that, perhaps approach some people and get a lot of support. Yeah, so a mentor doesn't necessarily need to be this elderly, wise figure. Mentors come in all sorts of shapes and forms, and I've borrowed some fictional characters here to show you this kind of visually. These are all characters from movies or TV shows. Some of them are maybe more familiar than others, but yeah, I just want to give you this idea as a little gift to take with you and think about it, like, who is a mentor? What do they look like? What sort of traits do they have? What possibly are character traits and mentors that would suit you and that will bring you forward in your professional development and in your scientific work. Yeah, and hopefully this gets across this idea that I want to evoke. So coming back to the theme of this talk, how to recruit mentors and how to find mentors, I want to come back to the article that started it all, where I borrowed this expression that I found on Twitter and that I really, really liked, which is the idea of an unofficial board of mentors, so not a singular person that is perhaps even identical with your supervisor, but just, yeah, a whole plethora of people and knowledge and skills that you can rely on. And in this article from 2020, a while ago already now, I describe also this experience. So if you want to go beyond this short talk, I would definitely invite you to check out the article and read the full story, especially how I connected with my mentors at the University of Glasgow, and you can see a recent picture. And I think this is one of the points that I also come back to later, which is that you are most likely to also stay in touch with your mentors even after a chapter of your career closes and another starts. So yeah, do check out the article if you want to read a little bit beyond. And now let's get into these steps of identifying and recruiting mentors. You could start from the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. You can look around in your environment and see who are actually these role models beyond your perhaps team of supervisors. Perhaps you have more than one supervisor. And yeah, you can start right where you are in your department and yeah, have a little bit of a think, maybe even sit down and write down some names that come to mind. Perhaps you already have these sorts of informal mentoring experiences, and then I think it's really helpful to take stock and think about it for a little moment. And while you do that, you can also reflect a little bit on what roles do these mentors take on in your life, if you want to call them mentors, or maybe they're more advisors. Are they a personal advisor who gives you yeah, emotional support or a social support? Or are they an inspirational star that you perhaps don't even know so well, but you just look up to them and aspire to yeah, come closer to their contributions in science, or specifically open science? And perhaps you already also have a career guide, so someone who's really kind of taking you through the next steps of your career and who's really trying to support you and help you and let you benefit from their knowledge and experience. So I also want to talk a little bit about why you would seek out mentoring in the first place. So because maybe this is not totally obvious for everyone. When and why do you seek out mentoring? I think it absolutely makes sense early in an academic career. However, I think it's beneficial really throughout all stages of the academic career. You could seek out a mentor in a period that is characterized by transitions or difficult choices that you need to make career-wise, or you want to maybe learn a new skill or a new method, or you want to improve your writing. That's a great point in time to also seek out mentorship. Or perhaps you want to hear about different career options, perhaps even beyond academia, so then you can approach people there and talk with them. And perhaps you also would like to connect with the network of your mentor. So this is another great perk of mentoring, that you can definitely use the connections of your mentor and get introduced as well. And another important point, I think, is that you perhaps are seeking a mentor to discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion topics, especially if you're a young person in academia, then this can be a very relevant topic to you. And of course, most importantly, or perhaps most fittingly with the theme, you want support with making your research more open and more transparent. So I've collected these 3 steps, as I already mentioned several times, which starts with looking around in your environment, who is there beyond your team of supervisors, and if no one is immediately available, you could start from your department and ask also to be introduced. You could look around on Twitter or join professional LinkedIn groups or interest groups on LinkedIn, which is an explicitly professional network where people are on there to network, so they will be also more likely to accept invitations or connection requests, and perhaps you can take advantage of that infrastructure. And for that, I would advise you really to make sure that you have a visible profile. You don't have to have a big online platform, but yeah, just make sure that when people Google you, they find perhaps your Google Scholar page or your LinkedIn page has a little bit more information than just a picture and a name. Again, this doesn't have to be like a whole lot of work. You just want to make sure that if people are then kind of looking into your your first steps of contact, that then they find also some information on you and also on your research, of course. You can conduct so-called informational interviews, so you can just get in touch with people and ask them about their career. And sometimes out of these connections, mentorship relationships can also transform. If they don't, that's also totally fine. Then you have gained also some information and perhaps just made a new connection. You can identify peer mentors, so people in your environment that you look up to and aspire to their approach. That is absolutely possible, and perhaps you're also doing that already. You could also, if this is available to you, join a mentorship program, which is an experience that I 100% recommend, both from the perspective of the mentee and from the perspective of the mentor. So then kind of the next step along the way is to schedule either one singular meeting or semi-regular meetings. This can totally depend on your current needs and situation. So for example, as part of a formal mentoring program, my experience are mostly monthly meetings, but it can indeed happen more often or less often depending on your time and schedule. Usually, and again, this is only my experience, the mentee leads the meeting. So the mentee is kind of responsible for identifying a topic or asking for asking about something that they're just currently dealing with, and then the mentor is kind of in the role of can also prepare these topics. So that's very nice. If a topic already exists before the meeting, then they can prepare and look into it a little bit, and perhaps offer also some reading. Again, there's so much inspiration online for the questions that you can ask at these sorts of meetings, and also for the topics that you can discuss. I already raised a few in the previous slides. My little tip or my advice here at this step would be to prepare those meetings well, especially in the beginning. If you feel a little bit awkward or unsure of how like a mentorship meeting can run, it helps to have some notes and to have some questions that you can move along during the meeting. And then the third very important step for me, at least from, again, both perspectives, is to follow up. And again, the advice to use your words. You don't have to strike up these more formal mentorship agreements, especially if you have multiple mentors and want to make use of this unofficial board of mentors. But indeed, let them know that you appreciate their guidance, their advice, and their mentorship. And definitely also, as a mentee, give feedback and ask your mentors for feedback. I found this really helpful also for the organizational side of things. Some mentors want to be more involved than others, and I think that's perfectly fine, especially if you can connect with multiple mentors. And yeah, sometimes they will also have busier or less busier periods of their life and can give more or less time, depending on that. And I just think this feedback loop is super important as well. Again, even if you don't have any formal mentorship agreement, you can look up how you want to structure this feedback and yeah, make it a part of the mentoring relationship. And another really important final point I want to add is that if you feel like you have a good or if you have a mentorship relationship, have started it, most mentors are very, very happy to also hear from you in the future and know where you have gone, and perhaps if you've also taken up some mentorship roles. I think this is really nice for anyone to know. I feel like it's important to say it, just yeah, because I was surprised by how interesting and rewarding and empowering this felt to me as a mentor to know where people are going next and how they benefited also from the mentoring. And I want to close with two kind of bits of advice on the topic of mentoring, on the topic of relying on multiple mentors. I'm going to not butcher her name, but this is Anna Gifty a.k.a. I'm really sorry for mispronouncing it, but she was a wonderful guest on the podcast from Ellie Ward, the Ologies podcast. And one line that she said really stuck with me, and I've thought about it ever since, and I thought about it many times and just think it's really, really great. If you want to listen to the podcast, I also linked it. It's a great podcast. Also, beyond this this particular quote, but she says that you should really tap into community, and she explains that, or she says that she believes that community is powerful, and this is kind of the key line for me. I'm a product of people who invested in me, the community invested in me, and this is you will notice this on both sides of mentoring as well. You are investing something as a mentee, you're investing something as a mentor, and it is really just yeah, in your professional career in science and open science, you will see that all of the accomplishments that you have are also a product of the community, of the open science community, that are happy to share and be transparent and pass on their skills and knowledge. Yeah, so this is kind of the last bit of advice that I want to share. And it's Twitter. We're coming back to the beginning, circling back to the unofficial board of mentors. Here you see Russia responding to a question: has anyone worked with an academic coach or mentor to help them through their PhD? And you see also there were lots of responses. So if you're curious about those, I also linked that tweet. So here's a physics mentoring program linked, but also the unofficial board of mentors is mentioned. So these are people who Rasha trusts, look up to, and she goes to them in tough situations and for general direction. So I think this summarizes the unofficial board of mentors very, very well, and also reflects my experience with it. So I want to give you a few further reading recommendations. Beyond this talk as well. So I've linked my article. I've also linked a mentorship program in Open Life Science, which are, I think, also coaching mentors. So not only are taking on mentees, but are also coaching future mentors. The website also has lots of resources, so I really recommend it. And I also want to give a mention to the so-called hidden curriculum. So the sort of hidden academic knowledge that perhaps is not accessible to many first-generation academics. And there is this wonderful blog that is also on the subject. And yeah, I strongly recommend browsing through it. There's lots of content on mentoring as well. And if you want to get inspired about feminist mentorship, I want to link another paper that I was lucky to be a co-author of, which is the Navigating Open Science as Early Career Feminist Researchers. Yeah, all of these are linked and you will find them in the slides. And this leaves me to say, keep in touch. Thank you very, very much for having me. I wish you a wonderful rest of the conference. Again, you can find me on Twitter or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very happy also to take questions that way. So tweet at me or send me a message because I'm very curious to hear what your experience is with mentoring. And yeah, that's all for this talk. Thank you so very much.